Do we need to call the meeting to order officially or anything like that?
It's
Or
just
we
a work
gonna-
session, so you
Okay,
don't, so
we're
you
good.
just introduce the work session just for the recording's sake.
Okay,
Maybe we'll say who is here today.
sure. We'll just let everyone introduce themselves. This is Annette Bennett here for the Housing Task Force work session.
Ashley Kawashima.
Jalen Pomeranke.
Larry Hofstad.
And then no one online, right?
No one online yet.
Okay.
I'll let you know if anybody logs in.
Perfect. I did get some messages from Sarah. I asked if they had any information about the building itself so that we could talk about it. And they said they looked through their notes and found that they have, the first floor has 4 rooms, 1 bathroom, which I think has multiple stalls in it. And then floors 3 and 2 have 14 rooms and 1 bathroom. And I'm 98% sure that they also have a laundry on each of those floors also. And then the bathrooms are just multiple stalls. And when I went through it, I'm pretty sure there were showers. I want to say there was like 3 showers on each floor and then 1 bathroom or several stalls. So. Where do we want to begin?
Did she have any information on them doing like any type of inspection on the building at all, or having someone come through previously?
I know that Gary had gone through it, and I heard through other people that he said that it looked like it was in pretty good condition, and working order and wouldn't take a lot to, sorry, my phone's. Apparently it's not on silent. Okay. Yeah, and so it looked like it was in pretty good working order.
I think just having, I mean, if the city were going to purchase it, they'd obviously want to go through all the requirements of having like an inspector and everything go through it too. Because then it could possibly open up the options of what could be changed as well to fit what the needs that we're looking to kind of work with. So that would be nice as well if they were going to go forward with it, just kind of scoping out what would need to be done to get it to the usable status kind of thing. Because right now it's obviously clean, it needs to be cleaned and stuff like that too, but what out of sight problems would there be?
And I think what we could work on is just coming up like, what would we want to use that building for? So like in my mind, I think having a warming center would be kind of ideal, and then having maybe transitional housing so that people could have a place where they rent until they can find another more permanent housing situation. Seems like an ideal scenario given that space. And
And a
location.
soup kitchen.
Yeah,
Is it sprinkled?
it is. Yeah.
Good.
And that is a requirement for anyone
Yes.
to be staying overnight. And so, and I think in a public space, maybe is just kitchen.
Well, that too, and kind of assessing how large you'd want the rooms, because a lot of them generally would only sleep 1 to 2 people at the moment.
No, they're pretty, Sarah says
Oh.
that they're pretty big. And so each room, let me double check my notes from her, but each room would actually take quite a bit or houses several people. I want to say it was 100, it's either 160 or 190 people that they had housed in that building. Which I think they also worked shifts. So I don't know how that impacts it, but yeah, so it says each room would house 6 people, so up to 190 total for all 3 floors.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And that's with like bunk beds and, so on. One of the things that I know WAVE has to be accessible for everyone. And so we'd have to, not that we have to have an elevator necessarily, but we have to provide the same level of service to everyone. So if we have a room available that is accessible on the first floor, then I think that would meet the qualifications, but it would be good to make sure that there's not something different for homeless shelters, like, I don't know if we'd have to put in an elevator or not, but it's definitely something to, yeah, I think as long as we're providing equal service
Yeah.
to people, then we'd be okay, but
And sometimes that can go by ratio, like if you have 6 bedrooms that are not ADA compliant, you
Yeah.
have to have a minimum of 2 kind of thing.
yeah.
So that might just be like a fine print to look at,
Mhm.
just to make sure that we're compliant, but that would make sense.
Oops.
There would need to be like a ramp or something also.
ADA compliance.
Yeah.
There
I-
is a ramp, I think. Oh, you know what? I think it got taken out from the snow last year. There was a ramp.
Yeah, on that front deck
Yeah.
part, yeah.
But that's easy enough.
Well,
Um,
and then my thought would be too, is if we are having to have an ADA compliant room, someone who could fit a wheelchair or something like that in it. Another thought is bathrooms,
mhm.
because I mean, they would have had to construct the bathrooms knowing that one of them would have been wheelchair accessible. So there probably is something like that. The only
Yeah.
other thought would be showers, if there's an ADA compliant shower. 'Cause
Mhm.
there's so many regulations that go along with those, which is fine. It's just making sure that when the one-time situation comes up, that we're prepared for it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which would, I mean, I don't even know like the percentage of that. I don't know. I've never been in a warming shelter before, unfortunately. I wish I would volunteer my time more, so
Well, you might get an opportunity
I'm
to.
excited about it. That would be awesome.
Is there a way that we can get the key and go in there and look for ourselves and just kind of
Is it locked?
look?
Just, they don't,
Just moseying over there right now.
we haven't really had luck getting response from them.
Yeah, I remember talking about that in the last meeting.
But Sarah might, or even, I don't know if you've had any luck reaching out as well.
I could try. I haven't, just because I haven't had a need to, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that I can't try for sure. And I'm wondering how Gary got in there. He just snuck through a window or something.
Well, I think Larry Durst is the person who kind of manages the building.
Okay.
And so that's who we did the tour with when we went through and looked through, but.
Okay. Well, yeah, I could definitely try and reach out and get some contact info to see about if they'd let us in for a little while, just so we can get some photos and kind of see it in the light of day instead of just from outside. So
Mhm.
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we need to come up with some sort of a plan, other than what we already discussed, like a soup kitchen, a warming center, and then some transitional housing. Is there other ideas or thoughts on the building of how we could utilize that space?
Well, I know we had chatted about like having access to like the services that people might need.
Mhm.
I don't know, again, like without being able to see like how it is laid out, I guess. Like what could be utilized for that without taking up that like necessary space that we're trying to have people be able to shelter in.
We could have like a one-time, like an office, like say Wave wants to go in for a couple hours to either offer services or have a representative there. You could just have one office area designated for whoever would need it during that time. And just kind of communicate. And you can even have 2 desks in there. Say if HIP wants to go in to, offer services to certain people, they could have one desk, and HIP or Wave could have another side, and just kind of make it a point of contact. While it may not be a full office area, it could just be okay, let me get you down and get you the information that you need so we can get the ball rolling on helping with stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
So I was wondering, should we start looking into possible grants for the conversion possibly, or rebuilding, for like apartments type stuff? I'm pretty good at researching. I mean, healing up from surgery, so I have lots of time. I mean, I'd be more than willing to help.
Yeah, I don't think it would hurt. I think one thing that we're kind of trying to balance a little bit is, how much effort are we going to put in before we get the approval, or, like, I don't want to run down and come up with this great, amazing plan and then just have it kind of be shot down of like, this isn't going to work for us. So my understanding is that we just want like a general plan that we can propose to the assembly. And then they can say, yeah, let's kind of move forward from that. Does that sound?
Yeah, and like if they
Okay.
would like to, us to continue the research on this being a possibility.
I kind of got from that, was it first meeting or second meeting? I can't remember. Anyway, they were talking about, doing the housing assessment, study or housing needs study for the grant stuff, you know, have an updated one. I think that was pretty much agreed on, that they were going to take that to the borough to try to get that, because it was going to be, I think, $70-some thousand just for that alone. I think if the city was to, or the borough was to like accept that and actually do that, that would give us a big jump on looking for grants, because we'd have all, you know, all of our ducks in a row. I think, you know, I don't think it's going to be like a real immediate thing, but I think it's going to be a really awesome program.
Yeah.
And I know it's needed for sure. You know.
When you had mentioned before too, I think you weren't here, so she had mentioned that there is a grant you can apply for to have someone fill, or to get the money for the housing and needs assessment, correct?
Aaron.
Oh,
had
yeah,
said
Erin,
something
yeah.
about that, yeah.
Okay, okay,
And I think she forwarded or was going to forward that information on.
okay. Because that would, I feel like, be an initiative for the borough to be like, hey, we found a program to pay for this.
Mhm.
It's the first step in getting us to where we need to be to have these opportunities for these ideas that we're coming up with, which makes sense.
Right, and that would pretty much be that housing assessment.
Yeah.
That was really interesting, that sample one we had. I mean, it was in pretty detail. It made a lot of sense.
When I think it had a lot of the ideas that we'd been touching on already, just kind of wrapped up into one. So it'd be nice to see how our community's response to the needs that they're seeing as well too. So, yeah.
I've been out talking to a lot of people. I mean,
Good.
it's, people definitely know that it's a needed thing. A lot of people are just, they got their own things going on and don't really see it like we do.
Right. Good. Community involvement is always the best, especially when we're trying to do something so big.
I think it'd be like a model for, you know, the small towns to see something like this happen and encourage, you know, other places too.
Absolutely.
I think one of the other members in the task or on the, task force had mentioned utilizing some of the spaces also for other things, like, I don't know if it's like a tourism type thing. I do think that that could be a bit of a challenge if we are providing services to people who are facing housing insecurity. I mean, I don't know how likely it is that we're going to have other opportunities for businesses, but I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I just don't know how effective it might be.
Well, it could be that we're utilizing businesses from other communities as well too, that would attribute their services to people who have lower, that are already in transitional housing. So something that we may not have in Petersburg that somewhere else could offer. Having a space for them, not a necessarily large space, but again, like an office where if we rotate through it, they could have an area to be able to provide the services that we may not have in town as well too. Which could be something, but that's always a dime and a dozen sometimes too. Not everybody wants to come to Petersburg, unfortunately.
Well, and maybe it would be more like even like a hub for like volunteerism, like
Oh, yeah.
getting different groups together that have, different, they have different like things that they want to like try doing or different activities that
Yeah, like AmeriCorps might be a good opportunity because a lot of times that's housing that is provided, and that would be a really cool connection if we could get something for that. And then that would help with providing staffing for that as well. Should be cool.
When I know a lot of religious groups in town too like to donate and do certain activities as well. So that could be
Mhm.
something that a partnership for certain projects comes up or, but I don't know, I can't speak for them, but you know, stuff happens sometimes too.
Well, and I think even from like my personal experience with Humanity in Progress, a lot of times it's the issue of we don't have everything in one place. And so when we're trying to get people connected with minimal volunteers, it's so much easier if you have everything kind of centralized. So, I mean, even when we do our like point in time count, most other places that are doing that are they have a shelter and they're already providing services to these
Right.
groups of people all at once in one place. You know, and that's a much more effective way in a lot of places to be able to just help, you know, as many people as possible as quickly as possible to get them rehoused and to get them,
Exactly.
you know, into the services that they need to. So, yeah, even if it was like, you know, we allocated a couple spaces to just being available, like you were talking about on a rotating schedule basis, but, you know, maybe public health would be interested in, you know, being up there and doing, you know,
Oh, yeah.
some stuff on a, you know, I know they're
Like
obviously
Narcan
very
training or
busy,
something,
but
yeah.
yeah. But I think presenting it in a way that really utilizes like all of the strengths that we already have in the community, but utilizing them all as this like one service
Yeah.
in this one place where people can go to get what they need.
Yeah. Well, and we're such a small community. It doesn't seem like a mind-blowing concept that everything you would need would be in one
Yeah.
area. So it makes sense, especially for someone who may not have a car, who can't afford to go 9 million places to get something done for them too. So
Yeah, I think the big challenge is really going to be the ADA compliance and figuring out what are the rules and regulations for that. And I think perhaps we could try to reach out to Brian Wilson, who is the Alaska Housing and Homelessness Executive Director, I believe. And I bet they would have a lot of information that would be really helpful for us.
do you guys ever reach out to Rainforest Recovery in Juneau at all? I know they've done warming shelters over temporary ones in the Juneau, like downtown area during the winter, but I only know them to be a Juneau company. I think they're a nonprofit. I'm not positive, so, but they do a lot with homelessness in Juneau. So it might be nice to reach out to them too and kind of get their perspective on ADA compliance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or what little issues they run into and stuff like
Mhm.
that too, so.
Or actually, maybe one of us or whatever can like go through and tour
Mhm.
what they do and see on an, you know, go and volunteer for a day and check it out.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested in doing something like that. I think it'd be really educational
Definitely.
for sure. Definitely reaching out and talking to people, but
Or yeah, what needs that they've assessed have come up from years of working with people would be
Right.
nice too, because there's stuff that you don't think about when you're starting, and then 2 years later, you're like, wow, we need to add that now kind of thing, so.
yeah, they definitely have all the high points of things that we'd really be needing to look at.
Well, and I don't know if like in our plan, it would be that we implement everything all at once.
Yeah. No, we're gonna do it all right now. Everything's going on.
Go.
Yeah. We have all the money in the world.
So even starting out, maybe like writing like, this would be like, this is the most, like, this is what we need right now. And then like, this is what we hope, like, this is what we envision that the space can be. But like at least meeting, like, what is that like bare minimum of what we know we need to use that space for?
Yeah, I think like year one, real easy could be soup kitchen warming center.
Yeah.
Because all you need is like mats for people to sleep on the floor for warming shelter. And then, you know, establish rules about what, you know, check in, check out kind of thing and that stuff. Which I think there's a lot of other programs in the state that would be more than happy to share information with us of how they work. And then we can tailor it to Petersburg. And then maybe in the next year, we could work towards like transitional housing. And then I think we could even probably still provide some services, you know, in that area. I think that would just be a natural fit for a lot of things, but really getting it fully established would take some time. I'm wondering about like the transitional housing. If we have 28 rooms, but there's no bathroom in any of them. How that would work. There is laundry though, I guess, too, which is nice.
Well, my thought process too is, are we going to split them up, singles, family? I mean, we can't really do men, women. That's kind of a fair housing thing, right? I'm not positive on that.
I would personally be against it because then there's more than, in my opinion, there's
Yes.
more than just two
Exactly.
genders. So I think it just makes it very confusing for a lot of folks. But I do think that having, some family housing would be ideal. Because, we're gonna have kids that need beds that are, different than grownups and
Right.
things like that. So it'd be nice to have at least some that were somewhat dedicated for families. And that might, be a portion of those floors, or I don't know. The way it's shaped, it's kind of like an L. And so I'm trying to remember when I went through I want to say there's just like room, and then you make the corner, and that's on the corner is where the bathroom, and then across from that is the laundry, and then there's more just rooms down that way. So maybe one of those wings could be, like, this is the family kind of section, and then if there ends up being overflow, then, that's fine too.
That would be smart too. What concerns were you having about the bathrooms and not having one in each one?
I'm just worried that there's not enough bathrooms. I mean, if I remember right, there was like 3 bathrooms, like actual toilets per floor. Yeah. And same thing with showers, because I was just like, this is all, and they did have urinals, which I want to say there's like maybe 2 or 3 as well, but it still just did not seem like enough,
Well, and that's something we could check if it's up to code too.
Mhm,
And like, just because like their capacity was 160,
mhm.
I mean, does
Yeah,
not,
ours.
and
not good.
especially like year 1, or
Yeah.
year 2, I mean, our capacity is not going to be anywhere near that number.
That could,
Um,
yeah, that could be a need that might be assessed after year 2 kind of thing. Because if at that point it's doing really well and we want to not expand, but possibly look at
like
finding an area.
convert some of the
Yeah.
rooms into bathrooms
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like.
Another thing I was thinking of, we can get the schematics, the floor plans and
Yeah.
the building plans, we can get that and then possibly get some feedback from an architect for just like an overview or some kind of suggestion type thing where the fee wouldn't be like astronomical, but get some outside professional input as far as maybe some of those could be converted like that first year for emergency family stuff. You know.
I would like to get maybe even some schematics of what current like shelters, like how their layout is
Layout.
exactly.
Mhm. I imagine Brian would be pretty, if we can get a hold of him, would be pretty open
Because if
to.
he's like, you cannot have like the bathrooms, this is not gonna work. Like, I'd
Yeah.
like to just know in advance, like.
Yeah. Did you have any comments or anything that you wanted to share? Or you just listening in? You could go up to the mic if you. We don't have an agenda. It's just a work session, so. Mhm. Yeah, our focus is primarily on, well, right now we're talking about the Ocean Beauty building and what we might be able to do with that. And then I think a subset of that is also just really focusing on homelessness in Petersburg and how we could address that issue as like kind of an immediate. It's a subcommittee of it. Mhm. Yeah.
So that meeting is scheduled, then our next
21st?
meeting is scheduled for the 21st, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a Wednesday. I'm assuming it's a Wednesday,
Yeah.
right? Let me
So
see.
I think it was 6:30.
Oh, wait, is it the 23rd?
I have the 21st in my head too, so. Okay. Oh, no, it's December 21st. Yeah, at 6 PM. Will be the next regular housing task force meeting. Okay, yeah. Let's see.
So if we think about like how we would want to like what he was saying, Dave was mentioning, like presenting something like in a, if you can get it done in 5 minutes, like what would you want to be like the most important? Maybe it is like, this is like our big picture and this is our yearly kind of goals. And if you're interested in knowing more information about this, then we can like continue to build on this, but we just wanted to know if this is something that like is going to be at all plausible,
Mhm.
maybe.
Well, my question would be for you guys is, how would we structure it, like you said, for transitional housing? Having an idea of what rental amount would be based on low income. Because like, I know how we at PIA do it, but that's all based off our tribal members. And like Nahasda minimum floor rent is like $575 kind of thing, but it's all based on income. So we take 30% of an annual low income housing kind of thing and it's all a bunch of formula from there.
Mhm.
So kind of just, if that's something we're looking at, trying to figure out how that would work as well too. But again, that could be more big picture and something we'd want to have to work out the logistics for within the first year before opening transitional housing. But it's just a thought too. So
Yeah, I think it would be good if we could split up some of these tasks to kind of do some research on. Would you be open to looking into what that transitional housing potential income could be?
yeah, absolutely.
That would be great. And then, Larry, would you be interested in looking into the ADA compliance
Sure.
stuff that we need? To reach out? And I'll also reach out to Brian and see if I can get any information from them.
No, what I was thinking too is like on those apartments to be or whatever, the Section 8, you know, they'll cover, right? And then like the grants that I got, you know, for the homeless type grant. It seems to me that it would almost pay for itself, maybe, you know, with that rental and stuff. So we wouldn't be so dependent on, you know, others like trying to get more money out of the borough or whatever else. I mean, I think it could actually sustain itself and with volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, like I went to cooking school when I was younger. I'd be happy to come in and, you know, and do stuff.
Well, the
So-
nice part about like AHFC is that if you do get on their rental voucher program, they pay whatever your fair market rent is.
Mhm.
So whether you're charging someone lower based on their income, AHFC will always pay that fair market rent,
Yeah.
which really helps a lot. It kind of incentivizes, I feel like, people to want to keep their apartment because they do have to do inspections and stuff like that too. So
Well, and the other thing is, you know, when people aren't feeling like they're just in survival mode to figure out where they're gonna sleep tonight or get their next meal. You know, obviously our community has a lot of positions that are open for jobs and stuff, but it's really hard to get yourself to work or to a job interview when you literally have no idea where you're even gonna sleep. So
Mhm.
I don't know, when we like, I guess, present this, I would like to, you know, not only present like what the plan is, but also maybe just highlight like, you know, our top 5 reasons that we really feel that this is like going to be so beneficial for different areas of the community even.
absolutely.
Absolutely. I know when, you know, when a family or people, like in my situation, was feeling good about, having a decent place to live. I mean, my attitude was better, the depression wasn't as much, the alcohol wasn't drinking, and you're motivated to get out and do something.
Yeah.
And that's why I really think it's super important to bring the community together, as a whole and yeah, pretty much.
Absolutely, when you can supply someone's basic needs, I think that what is that? They have the basic needs prior. I can't remember. I always think of it as the food
Oh,
pyramid.
the hierarchy.
yes.
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy
Yeah.
of
Thank
needs,
you.
yeah.
Hierarchy of needs, yeah. One other area that we haven't really talked about is parking. There's not really any parking there. I think that there was one area that was leased from the borough that I think is primarily used by like Salty Pantry now. But it's only like 3 or 4 parking spaces there, so that is gonna be a challenge. A lot of the people that I interact with, they have a car to sleep in. But they don't have anything else, and giving up that one thing that you have is pretty tough, so.
Well, I do know that parking space where Kinder Comfort is, and then there's the lot right next to it,
Mhm.
those were being sold together as one. I don't know if that's something that is still on the market. I would have to double check. I haven't looked at commercial spaces in a while. But that could be something we could possibly, not maybe in the first go around, but after the
Mhm.
second year, think about acquiring that parking area as well too, just depending on, I don't know if, it looked like to me when they listed it, it was a package deal. So Kinder Comfort, the building with the apartments and the lot would go with it. So, but then we'd be taking over the whole block. And I like that idea.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep going.
I like it.
Would you mind checking onto that then too as well?
Of course, no
Thanks.
problem.
Just gonna assign tasks to everybody. Ashley, do you have any contacts of people who are doing warming shelters that you know that, like, just to get some idea or feedback?
Not warming shelters specifically. Most of my contacts are like for like the food pantry,
Okay,
soup kitchens.
that would be also good to
Um,
look into to see if there's, I think you just have to have a compliant kitchen like that's, and I'm pretty sure that kitchen is, so I don't think there's a lot of other stuff that you need.
Yeah, I think that,
Other than people and money, I guess.
well, and I'm curious, obviously this is again, like not in the initial stages of what we need to know, but the groups that already do
Mhm.
meals, for example, would they be interested in, maybe even shifting to an alternate location?
Yeah.
That's 3 days a week where,
There's already people doing it, and I think they'd be open to doing more if there was like a set
yeah, and
location
I do
too.
think, there's a lot of people, like I was saying before, like there's a lot of people who want to help, but they just don't know how to like put that energy in or like where to like divert it to.
Agree.
Because like even with like HIP, we get volunteers, but then we have to, it takes time to train them. And, so if it was all just in one place where everyone was on the same page, I do think there are a lot of community members who have skills that they would be
Mhm.
able to, utilize there. I don't think that it would be too terribly difficult to have one meal, at least one meal a day there provided for free.
Mhm.
With maybe like supplemental stuff for like from Humanity in Progress, like
Mhm.
there would be, I think there would be easy opportunities for that because I know when I've been talking to like United Way Southeast and different groups like that, part of the problem is we don't have something here established that like daily provides those food services, and a lot of their money needs to go to like at least 5 days a week you have to be providing a meal or to do stuff like that. So
You said United Way does that?
Mhm.
yes, and then but he was talking to me about some other programs that he knows of that they help with like funding and stuff for. And a lot of them we just didn't meet the qualifications for. for the different programs that we run currently.
Is there anything else that we have not thought or talked about?
A question that I'm sure will come up is like, how many people does it take to run something like this?
Staffing?
Yeah.
Another big one that I had already kind of been asked just when bringing the topic up was security. Is how open or secure would the property be? And I know that's a hard question to ask because not everybody needs it. Not everyone goes to bed at 8 o'clock kind of thing. So it could be a,
Most of the models though, so I have like toured a couple different shelters before and things like that. Most of the models I've seen, they're pretty strict on the time you check in and the time you check out. And I think that really does, it's not like, I mean, you're not locked in there. Like you
Yeah.
can leave, but you just can't come back then for that day. And so I think that goes a long way in just alleviating some of those security issues, because like once you go there, you know, you're going there with the intent to have a safe place to sleep.
yes.
And then if you choose to leave, you know, that's up to you, but you just know like the rule is like, you have to be checked in by this time and you have to leave by this time in the morning. And then, you know, they have time to kind of go through all, you know, the rooms and make sure everything's good for the next group.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
I
would say
think-
modeling it after something similar to that would be.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what I had pictured in my head too, is like check in at 8 or even, you know, a little bit early. You can, you know, the doors close at 8 maybe, and, you know, meal provided at 6 or whatever time. And that way people could just get a meal if they wanted and then leave, or if they're staying the night, then they can also have that as an opportunity. So,
And that's where I'm not as versed. I wish I had volunteered more.
it would be nice if there was some way we could keep it open until the library opens, because then that's another warm area that people could go, especially when it's winter time. You know, kids can go to school, but other people are just kind of like, okay, well, get out.
Right.
And where do you go at that point? So that's tough. But the library doesn't open until 11. That's pretty late. So,
Well, and it'd be just a separate thought that totally popped up is, I don't know if you had mentioned something, but like job training options as well too. And possibly if there's a common space, being able to open that up during the daytime to people who may not have the opportunity in the evenings to do job training or stuff like that, but it would be a really another awesome use for the space as well too. So
that makes sense. So maybe we could do something from, you know, if we have check-in at 8 and check out at 8 a.m., then from 8 to 11, there's some sort of class on some days maybe. And
Right.
that's another opportunity to stay inside if you'd like.
right.
Yeah, like GEDs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, you could even have a job fair.
Yeah.
Like you could just straight up have a job fair
Love that
there.
idea. Well, that too, and then my thought too is having access to internet is huge. And
Mhm.
sometimes not everyone gets a chance to go to the library, but being able to do, like you'd mentioned, continued education
Sure.
classes. I mean, I know the school might get rid of laptops occasionally or something like that, if that would be a donation from some other organization, just to be able to have internet access for people during specific times would be really beneficial too.
Yeah, maybe like GCI, maybe they would donate X amount or cut the,
No,
yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about it. I mean, I've talked to quite a bit of people and I've been talking to like my brother for the last year and stuff. And there's a lot of generated energy. It's
Right.
just like you were saying, people aren't really sure where to go, right? So
Yeah.
So what are some of the negative things that like maybe we should address? You know, I don't know that there's going to be a huge pushback in that neighborhood. It's already kind of a public space. We're not really invading. There are apartments there that, you know, might disturb some people who are living there, but
yeah, but Keto's is right next door too, so, I mean,
yeah.
if that's not like a late
Yeah.
night disruption on the weekends.
Mhm.
I think my biggest regard would just be safety, making sure that there isn't animosity between people who are in the shelter and making sure that
Mhm.
we have a plan in place if something like that were to happen. But that would be my only thought, would just be safety.
And I think, we have to be aware that there is going to be people who don't get along with each other. That's just the nature of humans. When we have a group of humans together, there's going to be some people that don't get along with other people. And also when there's a level of scarcity, it can feel really uncomfortable. And so there's already that heightened emotion. So it's something that, I think we just have to realize is going to be a reality for this type of scenario, but that's still happening here. People are outside right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
And so this is still a better scenario.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
Animals. We haven't talked about animals. I don't know of any places that allow animals, so
There.
that's gonna be tough, but maybe a partnership with Humane Sanitation, which I think they're already pretty overworked, but
But eventually down
Yeah.
the road. I mean, I know that it was mentioned at our last meeting, the concept of if you create a safe space for people that are in transition for housing or are currently experiencing homelessness, that will bring more people to the community.
Mm.
That I think line of conversation, people are coming to the community that are experiencing housing insecurity already. And people are leaving the community that are experiencing housing insecurity. Like we're obviously seeing an increase in, the housing shortage and the, homelessness. And I don't think that, creating a safe place for people to shelter like that, I think for a lot of people would outweigh, the negatives of like you might get some more people coming to the community. And also like the goal of this is not to permanently shelter anyone in this setting. Like the goal is going to be to utilize this as emergency warming and transitional housing, like to
Always a
get
stepping
people
stone.
into permanent housing solutions, no matter who's coming and staying in this space. So obviously another really important thing probably is that like all the other like subcommittees or whatever, like them like creating more housing is like the only way we will be successful.
yeah.
Or like the rest of our group, like the
Mhm.
borough and, the community just in general, an important factor to this being successful is that there needs to be just more housing options.
Oh, absolutely.
So like, this is not like the solution to, the
No.
housing crisis or anything, but, I think focusing on that there is not, I mean, it gets very cold here and there is nowhere for people to go. Like
One,
they're going to the ER and they are, that's the only 24/7 place that they can go. That still costs our borough money. So I don't know. That I think might be something that is brought up, but I think there are, obviously I know how I feel about it, but I think there are ways to have those conversations that hopefully could help people to kind of see like the benefits versus like the negatives.
well,
I
that
guess.
too, and if it were to bring people who are looking for resources like that, and we're able to offer them a stepping stone, like you said, it is not just a homeless issue, there's a housing crisis in general for every income qualification, no matter who you are. And giving people the option to grow, I think will kind of reverberate back into the community as well too.
Oh yeah, and fill some jobs. and-
Exactly. That's what I keep thinking is,
Yeah.
yes, we have a limited amount of housing, but we also have an overabundance of unfilled job positions, which people that already live here and are experiencing homelessness can't get themselves to the spot to be able to apply for those jobs. The people who aren't experiencing homelessness and moving to town can't get here anyways because there's nowhere to live. So it's it's not a one fits all solution for everything. I think showing the wheel of how we all work together in every situation can kind of, I don't know, sway my opinion at least.
Yeah, and I think,
Transitional, like you're saying, like that grant I have, it's actually worked out perfect because by the time I'm healed up and able to go back to work from surgery, that grant's there, then I can, transition into maybe Section 8.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great. It's totally, it should come back on itself.
Mhm.
Especially when you give somebody a healthy, safe place to be. And, their attitudes and everything is just gonna be so much more. When we get the community together on it, I mean, like on the 17th of May, the kitchen, boil shrimp or stuff. I mean, bring the community together with, the people that are having problems with the homelessness and stuff. And I mean, here's very small. It's not like we're having to deal with like places like New York. But
But
then I always think things are easy.
Well, I think it'll be interesting too, because I think some people have a negative image in their head of just a place that they wouldn't want to go.
Mhm.
But we're such a small community. Everyone knows someone who's struggled with homelessness at some point. So, it's not going to be rainbows and sunshines, but it's going to be helping people,
Mhm.
people that our community members personally know. So I think reminding everyone that, our community is small and not just thinking that it's going to be a bunch of random people that they don't know like,
Yeah,
hanging out.
those
So,
outsiders.
Yes. When I know it's not like at the same level because it happens once a year, but honestly, like our Project Connect event is like the most beautiful thing. Like I've done it for 6 years now, and just like seeing, like, first of all, seeing the community turn out for like all of this like amazing donations that they do, and the volunteers that it takes to make that happen and stuff. But it's like, the event is focused on helping people that are experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity. Those for the majority of the day, those are the participants that we're serving and that are coming to this event and that are so appreciative of having a place to go to get these services. And it really is like, I mean, it's so great. And I know originally when we started doing it, so a lot of the conversations about it were not that positive. You're just so, but now, like, the more we've done it and the more people have seen like, oh, it's, this like thing that like is really needed, we've been able to turn it into just like a really positive thing that we open up to the whole community, at times and stuff like that. So, I think just like refocusing people's, attention to like why this is needed and like, the importance of, not leaving anyone behind.
Yeah.
having that physical proof of a physical building that they're associating with helping people as well too. I think giving that proof to people who want to donate more,
Mhm.
like you said, it'll kind of centralize their efforts into being like, oh, this is where I go to help people. This is how I can help my community. It makes sense to me to give them something tangible, like a Project Connect. It makes sense. So
Well, and doing something now while it's relatively manageable, rather than putting it off till one shelter is not going,
Mhm.
and one area of transitional housing is not going to like solve any of the problems.
for sure.
I think in the beginning when the pandemic hit, everybody didn't know what was going on and people that were surfing, couch surfing got kicked out. And the go-to place was the ballpark under the cover up there with the porta potties and what have you. It's like, whoa, this is not that we're gonna have another pandemic or anything, but it kind of snapped in my mind. It's like, wow, okay. There is quite a bit of people that need help. And I was actually calling in a little bit and asking questions and stuff. And yeah, there wasn't really any place to go, which is kind of scary, really. I mean, because when you take, I feel mass sympathy for the adults that, are having troubles. but it's the children and the adults that really are the ones that suffer. And so that's really where my empathy goes out to, and trying to make something safe and clean and healthy that's, you know,
Okay, so we have just a few more minutes left. So maybe do we want to try to meet again before the 21st to just maybe after we get some of this research done and then meet one more time?
yeah, absolutely.
Let's look at our calendars and figure out what time that works. I'll let you start, Ashley. Your schedule's probably the toughest, so.
I got an easy one. I have physical therapy twice a week.
So. Trying to remember when those meetings are for is that the week of the 5th?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so.
Do you think if well, let's see. Is the week of the 28th, is that too soon, do you think?
Well, I just, maybe with the holiday, people's time to
Mm,
figure everything out.
Say the week of the 5th wouldn't work for you though.
No, just the 5th and the 6th. I'm not gonna commit to anything extra.
Yeah.
On those days, because we already have. So maybe like the 8th?
I was gonna say the 8th would work for me.
Let me double check. Yeah, that works for me too. Becky, is there any meetings that we need to be aware of that are happening on that day, like assembly stuff? It's a Thursday, so I don't think that they have meetings on Thursdays. Does this time still work for you? It's like 5 on Thursday? Okay,
I mean, yes, for me, if it works for everyone else.
5:15 might be a little bit more.
okay.
That like I knew today what my schedule would be, but I.
What day are you looking at?
The December the 8th.
Oh, that's open for this
Okay.
room. Yeah, there's nothing going on.
5:15 works for me too.
Okay, so let's call that December the 8th at 5:15. We shall meet again with all of our lovely information that we've gathered. So we want to find out information about ADA compliance, the transitional housing information, and then warming centers, if there's any regulations that we can kind of look into and what requirements we might need to meet.
Might just call a couple places just to ask like. I'll try like smaller places and just see like what their staffing numbers look like.
Yeah.
or what
Staffing
they-
is a good one, yeah.
How long have you worked there? And
Do
do you know how long you were staffed like before, when you first started?
Cool.
Good positive energy tonight.
Yeah,
I don't have anything else if you guys don't.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're all set. Thanks.